For centuries and longer, rats have fought tirelessly to repel the incessant frog invasions. Peace was only ever short-lived. Until finally, a young monarch rose to power. King Rattus, first of his name, unified the rat kingdoms under one rule, repelling Greenwort and his kind back to the putrid swamps from whence they came. Crops prospered, families flourished, and the magnificent Crimson Keep climbed ever higher toward the sky. But as time passed, King Rattus the Savior grew old, and the kingdom vulnerable once more. His people grew anxious, some claiming to perceive a faint odor in the air. Greenwort had returned with a ferocious vengeance. Amassing an army of unfathomable scale, he burned everything in his path towards the Crimson Keep. King Rattus gazed down upon his withered claws, barely able to hold the crown. He had little hope wielding a sword. So it was decided the crown should pass to Whiskers New. Arise, young prince, for the kingdom needs a hero. And so, your tale begins. When his squire woke him with this god-awful noise, the young prince was dreaming about this day, just like he had for months. Now it was here, he better be ready. If he'd known how unlike a dream today would be, he might have stayed in his bed. All the prince had ever wanted was to prove worthy of his father's crown. He might be the smallest brother, but if he was prepared, he thought he had some small chance. The bard had found the last of the summer raspberries in the bare basement. The bard was quick to offer one, even though they weren't his. He had the ingredients. His brother, the chef, would make you a feast fit for kings. Or so he says. Reggie only ever gets his brother Dennis's leftovers, so he wouldn't know. His brother, the smith, could forge armor and weapons to see off any enemy. He'd make some for Reggie, if the young prince could find blueprints for a rat of his stature. His eldest brother didn't think Reggie could hit a target, even if it was standing still. But Reggie had been training hard. Freshly squeezed bug juice, drink of champions. Nothing better after a long fight. The training dummy's red attacks were too strong to block. It was fast, but Reggie could be faster. Not even Reggie could dodge the dummy's yellow attacks. His only hope was to parry with his trusty shield. The dummy's final attack shook the ground. Reggie would need to dodge to remain unscathed. Dennis was impressed. If Reggie could just grow another couple inches, he might even have been worried. Reggie'd never seen the Crimson Fort so full of ratfolk. The whole kingdom was there. Some even cheered for him. But the king had let his eldest brother lead the procession. If he was scared, he wasn't showing it. He was going to show all of them what he was made of. If nothing else, this would be no easy win for Dennis. He'd done it. He'd proved himself a worthy heir to his father's kingdom. His dream was about to come apart. The prince woke this time from a dream of blood and frog spawn. Finding he had neither a crown, nor a kingdom, nor a father, he needed a place to recover, somewhere to make a plan. Not content with killing the king, the frog horde had torn down his throne room, leaving behind little more than smoldering rubble and the bodies of his kin, dead and defiled. Reggie had never seen such evil, nor felt such rage. Reggie had his crown at last, but not his kingdom. Dennis had returned, but shamefaced. Drunk from drowning his sorrows in the village, he couldn't hold back the frogs there, or stop them taking their brother, the chef. Reggie had to get to Longtail Village to rescue his brother, and fast. If he could fix the travel board, it'd show the quickest way. Longtail Village always smelled of fresh, whole bug bread before. Now it reeked of burning fur and gore, and something putrid. Pond slime, and those that dwelt in it. The Frog Clan Bog Brothers. Guard Captain's last act was to secure the village elder in the town hall and bar this gate to the frog horde. But some had got past him. The captain was right. The frogs were inside. The villagers, they had no more fighters. Until now. Reggie had found them. The Elder and Robin the Ranger, who had been his last guard. The young king sought no thanks for saving them. He sought only to find his brother. If this old rat was right about what was beyond the gate, he'd need to stock up and prepare. Thug of a guard frog wasn't an easy kill, but it was a sweet one. The chef's hat. Reggie must be close. Their leader, Lancelot, had never been bested in battle. He had a lance as lethal as it was legend, but he also had the enemy. The Bog Brothers clan were finally destroyed. Reggie knew they would not be the last. The Bog Brothers were dead, and their stench would soon wash away. His brother could go home safe, and the young king would too, after making sure the roads were clear of frog scum. Reggie would need more than a sword on the road now, the ranger told him. He offered the king his best bow, a gift from his guild. The ranger's best bow was little more than rotten twig and frayed string, but Reggie was grateful that he hadn't been offered the other one. The Elder had started placing quests on the village notice board. Getting the old rat to part with some coin was no bad idea, considering the funds needed to rebuild. With the path to Longtail Village free of frogs, the builders could start repairs on the Crimson Fort's bridge. With the paths left unguarded, grubs had crawled to the surface. The builders couldn't work while they're there. The builders could start their repairs in safety. The Crimson Fort would soon be able to welcome visitors again. His brother Chef was glad to be home, but the smith was still missing. The chef believed he might have also been captured. Maybe the Elder knew where. The village had already started repairs. It would soon be as if the frogs had never come. The guard captain, who had recovered, had spread word of the king's rescue of the elders. To show their gratitude, the villagers would help rebuild the rat fort. Not so lucky this time. The Elder hadn't seen the frogs with the smith. But maybe the ever-vigilant rangers had seen where the frogs had gone. Young Robin had been headed to the Rangers' Lodge. Maybe Reggie could ask there. Rotting corpses always bring pests. If the grubs get beyond the farm, they'd be everywhere soon. The grubs were gone. The farmer could now make the best freshly squeezed bug juice in all ratdom. Reggie liked it with bits. The sewers. His royal ancestors had lifted rats from such places. No rat had dwelt here for years. The ranger needed help. Reggie hoped his bow would last the fight. The head ranger saw the smith taken to the tower by the foul Swamp Slayer clan. But the frogs had barricaded the path. Only a heavy two-handed axe would shatter it. Nothing like the feel of an axe smashing through tough wood. Reggie wondered if it would do the same to frog shields. And frog skulls. The ranger was excited to help the king. An unforgettable tale to tell his children one day. The smith's hammer. He would never have dropped it willingly. Reggie was grateful for his help. He needed to get to his brother as fast as possible. Would he find him still alive in the tower? The smith was alive, but the key to his freedom was held by Blocky Magoo, merciless leader of the Swamp Slayers. He squatted atop the tower, croaking orders to his clan. The village would soon be in ruin, and the frog spawn would feast on the dead. foul corpse of Blocky Magoo lay lifeless on the floor. He had croaked his last orders. Free of his chains, the smith would return to the Crimson Fort. The ranger would return to the lodge to begin to rebuild his guild. The young king thought he'd best check in on them both. Poison. Applied to any blade, it could affect enemies of any size, giving Reggie a much-needed advantage. More grubs in the sewers. Reggie looked forward to a day when being king didn't involve so much time in sewers. The ranger thanked Reggie for his rescue, but he still needed help. This infestation was of a size he'd never seen before. The young king... Was there no place the grubs would not infest? Even the sewers were overrun. Any more of them in the kingdom would stink like the Froglands. The young ranger warned the king what he was about to walk into. Grubs like these are not to be underestimated. The grubs were gone. The village might still be smoldering in places, but that wasn't enough to stop a hardened business rat like the shopkeeper from selling his... The guard captain asked the young king to join him in the trial ground. There was something he needed to see. Monument to honor his father, King Rattus. He would grieve after his kingdom was safe. Crossbow of finest hardwood. A weapon fit for a king. The chef wanted the renovations to start with the kitchen, as rebuilding a fort is hungry work. Apparently, also expensive work. In the golden age of Reggie's kingdom, he would invent taxation. But for now, he needed to complete quests for the Elder Rat to put coin in the royal coffers. A scouting party of frogs, out searching for any weaknesses in the village defenses. This needed to be dealt with, and quickly. Robin had been tracking this warband of frogs for some time, and becoming quite the team dealing with pond scum. The scouting party had been dispatched, and the village was once again safe from the terror of frogs. For now. Battling frog scum was hungry work. If he could find more ingredients, the chef might make him a feast fit for a king. The smith must have heard from the chef that Reggie was made of gold. But his cause of rebuilding the army was necessary if the Frog clans dared return. Another bug hunt. At least these ones kept their distance. Just when Reggie thought he was done, Robin arrived to tell him he'd found another nest. The mozzie nest was packed with eggs. Robin hoped they'd survive to tell the story, as no doubt it'd be a fine one. His king... More mozzies. These ones slammed the floor with such power it made the whole room shake. all the Mozzies dead, Reggie wondered where they kept coming from. More grubs in the miners' basement. Big enough to keep the miners from the tools they need to work. The kingdom needed the miners to find iron to arm its soldiers with no delay. Grubs were dead, and the miners could collect their tools. They swore to work day and night until the kingdom's iron needs were met. Now the smithy was so finely rebuilt, his brother could maybe do something with all those blueprints Reggie had collected. Now the chef had a new kitchen. He promised to finally feed Reggie like a king. No more stale cheese. The village shopkeepers might have the bread, milk, and mushrooms he wanted, if some rat would kindly fetch them. Reggie remembered a time when kings sent their subjects on errands, and not the other way around. If the king wanted milk, he'd have to go to the source, the farm. Cow grub. The farmer's pride and joy. Not pretty, but it had quality milk. Now the chef had his bread, mushrooms, and milk. Reggie hoped the food would improve as promised. A juicy mushroom burger. Reggie felt healthier already. The smith's blueprints were destroyed by the frogs. The only other copy is the original blueprints of smithing, buried with their great-grandfather in the forbidden crypts. He went to open it with his key, but he heard something in there, almost like singing. Reggie thinks the smith has listened to too many old rat tales. The stairway was gone, lost to this labyrinthine, treacherous ruin. There had to be another way out. A noise. But what could be down here now but shadows and bone dust? This was why the smith heard singing. The bard was here. The iron pipe looked like it had been broken recently. Toxic smoke billowed from it. The king couldn't enter. Undead. How long had they just been sitting on this evil infestation? Had his father known? Thought at first it was some strange clan of white rats, but no. They had been his own clan. When they had lived. The bard locked himself in the crypts when the frogs attacked, but if he'd hoped for safety, he hadn't found it. But the bard had found the old library and seen a book of blueprints there. He also thinks he's found a way out. The book wasn't just buried. The whole Grand Library was abandoned. Frogs ended up buried in this revered place. More of his father's secrets. But for now, he had found the book. The other mysteries would have to wait. Reggie wished King Rattus were with him, to explain these creatures being here. And, if he were being honest, because he missed his father's reassuring presence. The bard had found a little courage, and even better, he'd found a key. Finally, a way out of these hellish halls. This room was strangely well preserved. The lack of rubble showed how bare it was, like something was missing. The distant smells of fresh whole bug bread led them home. The bard swore to write a heroic song of the pair's quest. Reggie wondered what would rhyme with zombie. Reggie didn't tell his brother of the undead yet. They still had living enemies to fight, weapons to forge, and a book full of blueprints thought to be lost. Stories could wait. Though the kitchen and smithy were restored and improved, Reggie looked at his broken, gore-smeared throne room. No self-respecting king could rule from here. The costs, as usual, never went down. The Mozzie King. Smaller than his female counterpart, but just as ferocious. Buzzing, then the stench of rotten meat. The Mozzie King had come for him. He wasn't the only king with a sting in his tail. With the king dead, hopefully the waves of Mozzie infestations would slow down. Her offspring were all dead, and the mother had come to get her revenge. The Mozzie Queen, foul mother of the swarm, never stopped while she lived. With the mother dead, that should be the last of them. For now. What was this strange creature? Everything about it unsettled him. He must be cautious. It was dead. Now he had a throne room to be proud of. Not like his father's, but he was his own king, doing things differently. Not hiding zombies in the crypt, for example. The kingdom was restored, but Reggie could not enjoy peace until he knew it was free of threats. It was only restored above. Miners had sighted frogs below. Some were no longer willing to work. His squire thought it might have more to do with a strange rumbling, they say. Dennis brought worrying news. The war chief and his band of pond scum had been sighted in the mine. frogs were dealt with, and Reggie had felt no rumbling monster. But sighting the war chief had made Reggie realize they needed to prepare for an attack. The king was needed in the fort. The bridge cracked under his weight. The darkness stretched endlessly below. But Reggie had a kingdom to fight for. He couldn't go back. So he had no choice but to go on. There had to be another way out. The deeper the king got, the older the mines looked. As if the rats had found the tunnels, not made them. But what could dig better than a rat? This looked like the piece the device needed. Now he could open the gate. He hoped. The metal door opened as if pulled by another's invisible paw. What strange world lay beyond? Whatever had lived here was long gone, and Reggie was glad. What kind of beast would live in a place made of such cold, hard metal? Comrade, the little creature squeaked at Reggie. What was it? Not a rat or mouse. It was armed, but seemed pleased to see him. Maybe it could help the king get home. Having said that he was king, the creature explained that he was a mole and electrician of the great Bolshevik Republic. But little of this made sense to Reggie. The mole needed something called electricity for his tram. It could get Reggie home, and that was all he needed to know to agree to help. The switch that gave electricity must be beyond this room. But they'd have to get past the grubmother first. She was the one infesting the mines with her grublings. Had finally stopped buzzing. She and her young would infest this place no longer. Now the electricity was back, the little mole would take them on his tram. Reggie was sure a tram was the rumbling creature the miners had heard. His new friend called it Station 24-7. It was kept alive with their electricity. Pipes funneled away the toxic gas, and there was strange music to put a wag in his tail. It was unlike anything Reggie had ever seen or dreamt possible. had more wonders to show. This automobile could dig them a path anywhere, and fast, even to the Crimson Fort. But it needed to be fed petrol, which the mole said Reggie could get in Station 24/7, but it was not cheap nor easy. No change there then, the king thought. Fighting pits, where the victors were legend and the vanquished were stains on the floor. These arenas were outlawed in his kingdom. His mole friend said, not easy. He didn't think he meant possibly fatal. But it was the only way to get coin for petrol. It was the only way home. This foe was called Mole Mysterio by the crowd. Reggie wondered what name the crowd would give him if he returned to the arena again. The fighter they called Macho Mole was a crowd favorite. Many a mole has lost their head to the brutal swing of his axe. Victory in the arena felt good. Maybe Reggie could learn to like this. This strange device was a blaster. Molecraft more deadly than most bows. Reggie wondered what the smith would think. Blasters make short work of most enemies. The king could get used to this. The guard moles refused to let Reggie pass. They were too busy arguing about what cake to bring to their captain's birthday. Caramelized whole grub or cheesecake? Reggie had chosen well. Cheesecake was his kingdom's national dish, after all. Singing, the guard moles went to start celebrating, leaving Reggie to explore the old sector. The old sector had been left to its ruin, and to grubs. Reggie didn't know what this creature was, but its teeth and claws were as sharp as they were fast. Reggie wondered what this spider was. Fear? Or despair? It was dead, and Reggie could barely believe he'd survived. He hoped this would be the last one he encountered. The pump was working. Time to get this fuel back to Jay for his automobile. The king was tired and bruised, but he had the precious petrol. This might be a place of wonder, but it had none of the warmth of home. Something was wrong. The Crimson Fort was locked down with guards at every door. The king had been away too long. The enemy had returned, just as he'd feared, but sooner than he'd have believed. They'd slithered in through a broken pipe in the crypts. His brother and the rat guard had driven them back, for now. His brother Dennis pointed the way. He'd meet them below at the broken pipe. Together, they would end the frog scourge for good. His new mole friend offered to stay and help Comrade Reggie with this fight. If the Rat Kingdom fell, Mole Town would surely follow. He died as he lived, defending Ratfolk from the scourge of frog kind. The guard captain had truly earned his place, alongside kings. In the king's absence, the builders had repaired the crypt entrance. Reggie was as glad of this sight as he was it had not cost him any gold. Dennis was waiting, just as he said he would, and called out to his brother. No doubt that was how they found him so fast. The frog scum. The toxic smoke was too thick to follow, but Reggie's mole friend told him there was hope. In Station 24/7, they sold a breathing device that would let him pass through the smoke unharmed. The king could go in Jay's automobile. Jay would stay and kill any frogs that came this way, or die trying. The arena champion, Hulk Mulligan, was a living legend of Moletown. His legend might have to live on without him. Champion, King Demolition. They cheered. One legend had died, but another had come to take its place. The Mollberg shield was thick and heavy, crafted from the strongest plate metal. Getting past it would not be easy. Shields make for slow targets. Slow targets make easy gold. The device made it hard to breathe, and a battle helm was more comfortable. But this protected him in a different way, from toxic smoke. With this, he would find his brother. These devices appeared to give the power of flight. Reggie would have been impressed if they were not on the backs of frog scum. late. Reggie saw from the docks his brother's silhouette on a ship surrounded by tribal frog soldiers. No sign of their foul leader. He had to get to his brother. Reggie had little trust in shamans. There was more mystery in this world than his father had taught him. The shaman had gone, but he'd left a key. None had seen a turtle in many seasons. His father claimed he found one here as a boy, but it didn't look old. Reggie was almost 2 after all. Could a turtle reach such an old age? Grateful to be free, and promising entertaining tales of Reggie's father as a pup, the turtle offered to take them across the river to the foul froglands. The turtle bid the pair farewell. Reggie asked his friend to stay by the river. This was not his fight. But Jay never abandoned a comrade in need. They were as brothers now, he said. Reggie had expected something as foul as frog spawn, but the froglands were strangely like home, apart from the smell. The same pipes that were in Station 24/7 were visible here. This was how the frogs were invading. Jay was furious the engineering that kept moles safe was being used to hurt others.
common grub. Reggie dreaded to think why the war chief would keep so many captives. This was why the rats had been captured. The war chief had offered them up for the shaman's twisted experiments. The war chief would answer for many crimes this day. The shaman had tried to hide in his workshop. Things he'd made and used on Reggie's kin were here. There was nowhere he could hide. The shaman's cruel experiments were over in a puff of foul green smoke. The war chief's throne room could not be far. He was the one who started this, so it was with a sword in his skull that it must end. What was this evil twist on Molecraft? A grotesque monster of creaking gears and steam. A sight that made Reggie freeze. But Jay's fury could not be held back. The sound of his small friend's body falling lifted the spell. Reggie didn't know what this thing was, only that it would die screaming. No beast, but his own brother in the evil machine. This was the frog's final insult, to turn his own blood into his unwitting enemy. But Dennis knew where the war chief was. Ashamed and angry at what he'd done, Dennis ran ahead, wanting to spare Reggie this fight. Even in the frog slime and its stench of death, it felt good to be fighting with his brother at his side. No, Reggie wouldn't believe it. Everything the evil frogs had taken from him, his mother, his friend, his kingdom. They wouldn't take his brother, and they wouldn't take him. chief was dead, and the kingdom saved.
But what did it matter if his brother was gone?
The rat folk rejoiced to have their king home. They had prepared for Reggie's coronation in the throne room. They had been sure he would return to them. To Reggie, it was a bittersweet victory. He had proved himself, but it came at a cost higher than gold. It was the start of a true golden age, free of the scourge of frog spawn. Working with the molefolk below, they built a new kingdom of steam and industry and wonder. But that is, as they say, a tale for another time.